Boat 628, a Tony Neal tale, part 8 of 42, 8:29 a.m. The NOC staff was visibly more buoyant as the sun briefly peeked out from behind a still mostly gray and gently drizzling sky as the predominantly male river raft guides hoisted and secured inflatables and ultra-short keel whitewater kayaks on top of the bus as guests wandered from the rear to the front of the bus along the driver's side and stashed their T-handle paddles in the bus's storage area before crossing in front of the bus's nose and climbing on board. With 14 rows of 2 bench seats that easily accommodated 2 adult passengers per bench, the double rows filled from front to rear. And as Johnny followed Rachel up the 2 steps as they boarded, his eyes were glued to her curves as he again wished he were capable of a far more physical relationship than the 2 shared, while still feeling upbeat and grateful for her affectionate companionship. After passing 5 filled rows of seats, Rachel reached a pair of empties on the driver's side. Slowing, she turned her head back towards John, raised her eyebrows, and pointed to her right in silent interrogative of acceptability. Johnny nodded, Rachel skipped the first row and slid against the window while John sat next to her, and Jean and Tony took the bench directly in front. "Any luck with your stock?" Jean whispered to Tony as he took the seat next to her. Tony exhaled, shook his head, and whispered back, "No, I'm starting to get a feeling for all those irregularity commercials," he whispered back before announcing, "Weather's looking good. With the sun peeking out, it's plenty warm enough that I decided against rain gear. Gonna be a good day." "Of course it is," Johnny said, screwing his face in incredulity. "Look who I got to spend it with. We're gonna have a blast. Hey, open that window, would you?" he asked Rachel, who nodded while sliding the window down. "I may need to raise it up some if it's too cold," she said with a furrowed brow. "You do you," Johnny replied with a smile. "It's fine." "Cold?" Tony asked. "You're not one of them, are you?" he asked, finger quoting them. If them is someone who likes it hot better than cold, then I'm guilty as charged. I was wondering when I came out on the back wraparound and you were sitting there comfy as can be in nothing but a pair of shorts, how you weren't shivering. I'm glad I have these convertible hiking pants and a raincoat. Otherwise, I'd be afraid I might get too cold. "Fascinating," Tony said with a grin and multiple head nods. "You and Jean, I bet you bring a sweater to the movie theater or restaurants in AC season, don't you?" "Leave her alone, Tone," Jean said, nudging her husband with her elbow. "Some of us aren't cold-blooded. Where's that warm?" "Whatever. Leave her alone," she said before reaching into a pocket of her shorts and slapping something fluorescent green on his lap. "The arm warmers we talked about." "Yes, Mother," Tony said, picking up the chartreuse arm warmers and slipping them on as passengers filed on board and filled the first 2/3 of the bus prior to Sam entering and beginning her informational spiel. "And thanks." With the boats loaded and both crew and passengers seated, Sam stood in the aisle next to the driver, who she introduced as "Beam me up, Scotty," before outlining the trip's itinerary concerning where they'd be putting in and how the equipment, including safety gear and lunch, would be carried to the boats by both crew and passengers. Volunteers, as those in the bus let out a cheer as they bumped away from the NOC and headed back towards US 76 and the waiting Chattooga.